She's so funny.
What did that? Okay.
All right.
I think that one's better.
Yeah, we're live. Hi guys. Welcome to another episode of Amityville Apothecary's Author Talks. I am Danielle. Tina just exited the building, and I'm here with one of my lifetime besties, Stefani Michelle, and she is the author of Chakras and Shadow Work, and I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I am thrilled to have you here in our metaphysical bookshop next to our metaphysical store, and to be featuring your newly published Llewellyn book, which is so exciting.
Thank you. It is so exciting.
So proud of you.
Thank you. It's being here with you is so, I don't even know. There's so much happening on the inside because of just this moment, this experience. You know, I've been away from New York for 20 years.
Yeah.
And during that 20 years, a lot of life has happened. There's been a lot of things that changed and transformed. I was a mom, I was a teacher, I'm none of those things. Now being back in New York, I'm none of those. I mean, I'm still a mom.
Yeah.
But I'm not a teacher. But when I left New York, I wasn't a mom and I wasn't a teacher. So it was like a whole nother life that happened in between our connection.
Yeah.
And it's, great to have this full circle because this was part of my childhood and growing up, and honestly part of the trauma cycle.
Yeah.
And being able to be completely on the other side of that and embrace who I am and be proud of who I am. What? That is like, who does that? Who's proud of themselves? In a real, like I am, like getting over the trauma, that kind of proud. Not like, oh yeah, I was a dean of students, I'm proud of myself. I got masters, I'm proud of myself. No, getting over the trauma and being able to rewrite my entire reality and then being on Long Island with a whole new reality. I was a little bit of a deer in headlights.
Including today. I mean, like, it's just chapters and layers, and to hear you say that and knowing you for as long as I have throughout the various stages of both of our respective lives, what is known, what is not known publicly and privately, what other people know about us, what we know about each other, and what we don't. I mean, that's the essence of shadow work, but I can't tell you how happy it makes me to hear you say that you're proud of the whole entirety of you, because that was not always the case.
No.
As beautiful as I've always viewed you and perceived you, it's the entirety of the person, which comes with the hard, the trauma, the good, the bad, the cutting edges, the softer edges. Like, that's what makes humans whole. So, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a journey for sure, growing up in Northport and being, if you're from Northport, you read my first book. More people read my first book because it was the drama and the trauma of my life than the second book that's about the healing of my life, which I'm not surprised by. People like to feel connected when they're still in their trauma, so they're connecting to that, and it's hard to break into the healing cycle. Extremely hard to break into the healing cycle. And
I think that's also part of the reason is because you have to really look in the mirror.
Yes.
And that's scary.
So scary.
To go into that.
Yeah.
So not everybody does. It's easier to stay distracted in the superficial and the gossip cycle or the projecting upon other people rather than to really do the inner work.
Yeah.
Which is shadow work.
And that's exactly right. And I'm glad that you said that, because what I tell all of my clients is turn the mirror around. Look in the mirror. Everything that you are doing is a reflection of the energy that you are putting out, is a reflection of how you think about yourself. I had a client this morning. A lot of people are having a hard time right now. There's a lot going on in the cosmos. And she called me in crisis. And a lot of people are turning their backs on her, like friends that she's had for 20, 30, 40 years. And they're saying some horrible things like, we never liked you. And I had to say to her, that is because you never liked you. And now that you're starting to like you, and I can relate. This is, my life. I'm telling her from being able to look in the mirror and do the same thing. Now that you like you, they don't fit with you and you don't fit with them. And so it's their ability to cut ties without having to look in the mirror themselves. They're just going to project it onto you. Well, we never liked you. Instead of looking in the mirror and just doing their own work and doing their own growth. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
Shadow work, the other thing that I say is it's in real time. You know, I love my book. I'm proud of my book. It's my entire life. But it's not just reading the book. You can't just read the book. The wind just blew the side down the sidewalk.
You keep talking. Let me just say this so much more. And keep talking.
I can get it.
It's all good.
All right, so
Thank you.
it's, you know, you can read the book and do the journaling and then put it on your nightstand and go to sleep and wake up and have your day and not think about shadow work the entire day. But that's not what shadow work is. Shadow work is slowing down time and thinking about it in real time as is happening. As situations are coming up and you're seeing the reflection in the mirror and you're going, okay, why is this moment happening? Good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is. Because I don't believe in those things. I don't believe in good and bad. I did for a long time, but I don't anymore. It's all just energy. So why is this energy being presented right now? And then you have to look, okay, what am I putting out? Am I putting out because I'm feeling scared? So I'm getting a lot of resistance? Okay, how do I change that? Or do I just need to be in the fear right now? Because it's not necessarily about changing the moment. It's about awareness of the moment and putting yourself back in the driver's seat. You always, that's the biggest thing, is putting yourself back in the driver's seat and not giving anyone else control, which is a big part of the conversation.
Exactly. So the only thing that we have control over is ourself, our energy, our autonomy, our boundaries, and who we allow into our sphere of influence. Is it somebody that's trustworthy and like-minded? Or is it somebody that's going to pull us down and cut us and try to cut us down to make themselves feel better? But I think once you start doing this inner work and the inner healing and the inner reflection, you start vibrating at a higher level. And then those other people stay at the lower vibration and you're no longer an energetic match. So therefore, there is no choice but to eliminate them from your life because they no longer have a place.
Right.
And that's okay, but bless and release.
Right, absolutely. And you said so many things in there that I want to touch on. First of all, I had another conversation with somebody that's like, I just don't understand how people don't want to be friends with their exes. And I get it. Some people are really comfortable being friends with all of their exes, and some people are very uncomfortable. And it's not good, bad, or ugly. It's just what it is. For me, my response was, and just my personal experiences, I no longer have anything in common with my exes. I'm not that person that I was when I dated that person. So what would I keep in touch for? There's no new experience going to happen.
Yeah, why go back?
Right. And that's
It's
exactly.
not relatable.
If you're going forward, why are you going back again?
There's no new experience. It's just a loop. And what you had said with the frequency and the vibration, that's why I wrote it with the chakras. Because there's so many ways to do shadow work, and there's so many books about shadow work, and the way that I found the most success for me was taking all of those bits and pieces of what's in the root, and let me just focus on the root chakra. Where is my safety and security? Where is my foundation? Where did I lose my safety and security? How do I rebuild it for myself? And then the sacral. Where is my creativity? Where is my production of life, my vitality? There's so much more in the sacral. That's why my orange is my favorite color. Love that one. But you take it in baby chunks. And then what you'll notice, though, is even though you're looking at this small moment, it's going to all relate. It's going to all kind of feed into each other. And it's going to be this beautiful, literally, frequency shift and vibration shift. I've been... Do you want to interject? You want me to tell
No,
that
I was
story?
going to say for anybody that's on the live that's not familiar with what chakras are or what shadow work is, maybe first before you could tell the story. I don't know. You tell me.
No, that's good.
But I think it's valuable to talk about like what is a chakra, which is the energy vortex and how we all listen. But also, what's the difference between what is shadow work versus shadow magic, and just differentiate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I would have never thought to differentiate that until I was doing a different podcast and somebody said, oh, shadow work isn't dark magic? And I was like, oh, people have that misconception? No, not at all. So shadow work is embracing the darkness you perceive in yourself, the things that you've been ashamed of, the things that you don't talk about, your characteristics, your qualities, your bad patterns, your patterns that cause you suffering. Let's say it that way. It's looking at all of those things and loving them and embracing them, because life is a balance of both, of light and dark, good, bad, whatever labels we want to put on it. It comes in pairs. Life comes in pairs. And so there's always going to be an opposite to whatever you're doing. And if you don't embrace and love the opposite of your light, you're not going to feel whole. You're never going to feel complete. You're always going to feel that void that allows you or creates you to go into the external. Let me look at everyone else to bring something in. Let me look at other substances, get that instant gratification to fill this void, because you don't want to fill it yourself with whether it's your light or your shadow. But once you start like, oh yeah, I have another story about that. So, there are some cultures, maybe states, that are very kind of subdued and not as loud and aggressive as New Yorkers. And I was with my husband one night, and I was just at the stove, and I was like, motherfucking shit, son of a bitch. And he was like, it's not that big of a deal. I was like, no, I know, but I'm going to continue to curse and be like this. This is just who I am. And that was like, in a previous life, that moment could have then resulted into me being like, don't tell me what to do, and it would have blown up into something unnecessary. But because I was like, no, I'm just shut the fuck up, I'm still doing it, He was like, okay, gotcha. Like, because it wasn't directed, it was just, I'm embracing my chaotic energy in the moment, and it doesn't have to go further than this moment. It can just be contained right here, because couldn't get the fucking gaslight on, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it's not, listen, there are rituals in the book, there are meditations in the book, there are psychic development structures to each chakra, but it's not going into the dark side of magic per se. It's going into yourself. It's looking inside and just loving everything about you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I started learning about shadow work and doing shadow work, because I used to be my own harshest critic, and I would just like self-decimate myself, because like the shame I would carry for my imperfections or perceived imperfections. And then, after complete burnout, I went on to learn Reiki and become a Reiki master, and the energy and the yin and the yang. And someone said to me, if there was a child learning something and made a mistake, would you slaughter that child and say, how dare you do that, you're horrible, evil, you're going to hell, or damnation, and you would
Which is what they used to do.
Right. But if a child fell, you would say, you're cursed, you're never going to walk in. You would say, it's okay, you're going to get up, wipe those tears, you have to treat your inner child like that. And I was like, oh wow.
Right.
That shift for me really helped me understand how I could be forgiving of those aspects of myself, that I am very imperfect, but how can I be more gentle with those parts of myself, because it's not like I'm never going to do those things again, but It's just, how can I do better next time and be aware of it so it doesn't consume me, but we isolate into that moment, as you were saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it consumes you when we isolate into that moment and we try to take it apart, as opposed to just being in the flow of energy.
Yeah.
And that is so much of also what I talk about is it's funny because I am a psychic and I've done that for 30, 40 years, as long as I can remember. But one of the things I talk about a lot is, let's not go into the future. Let's not project, because when I'm doing a reading for you, I'm telling you what's going to happen based on what you're doing right now. And that is what's going to happen. And 90% of the people that I talk to will continue whatever the pattern is that they're on. They will continue that pathway. But 10% of the people are like, okay, thank you, I see that option. I want to make a different option, so I'm going to slow down time. I'm going to be present, because being present and slowing down time is really the only way you get faster to the future that you want.
Yeah.
The
And that's all that we
manifestation
have now.
that you want.
We have now. So we can decision off those insights gleaned by the readings, by the divination, by the present circumstances.
Absolutely.
That's all we have. We can't change the past, and who knows what variables are going to come in the future. So
Right.
How can we decision right now at this moment and be present here and now?
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
And so this is according to the behavior you're doing right now.
Yeah.
This is the outcome. If that's an outcome you enjoy, keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to get that. If it's not an outcome you enjoy, stop and take a look around.
Yeah.
And look in the mirror and say, how do I change this frequency? What do I have to work on? The chakras I talk about as like your internal bat signal. It is like sonar coming out of your body, and you're going,
Yeah.
weird. I'm weird right now.
Yeah. No, it's true.
but yeah.
They're like the invisible cones that sense.
Yeah.
And there's 7 major chakras for humans. Like there's
Right.
sub-chakras, hundreds, thousands of sub-chakras we don't
So
even know.
many,
Yeah.
right.
But the main one, somebody
Yeah.
Your
So-
spidey senses.
Your spidey senses. And so when you are, now listen, there's a lot of caveats to this. There's a lot of starting points. You can't just, if you've had major trauma, you don't start at shadow work. You work through those traumas first, right? Maybe for me, it was going to Codependence Anonymous. It was doing yoga. I had to strip away the victim mentality and really get into a place where I was ready to take ownership of who I was. And then when you're at that place, when you've done kind of like the beginning, the foundational work, and you then go into shadow work, that's what you're doing. You're doing exactly that. You're changing each of those bat signals out, because now you realize, okay, I'm an adult. I have control of my entire life. I get to choose. I get to see what's around me. Not everything is a monster, right? But now I can see where the monsters are and where they aren't, and I control my safety.
Yeah, and each of those chakras are in charge of a different aspect of your physiology and of your life. And you can talk about this because it's your book. But I think if we experience traumas, or if we're suppressing certain aspects, then we may experience blockages. So like, it's an easy way to describe it. Huh? We're having a live talk, but you're welcome to join us if you'd like. Yeah, the shop is closed for shopping right now, but you're welcome to join the altar.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought, yeah, you were open.
Yeah, we close at 6 tonight, so
Oh.
we're doing the live stream. But
Oh,
you're
okay.
welcome to join us if you want to do that. Otherwise, tomorrow we open at 11.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
I think an easy
These messages.
it's okay. So I think the easiest example of how something that everybody experiences is the throat chakra, because it's so tight here that if you've ever been holding back saying something, you feel that tightness in your throat, and you feel the tears like about to well up, and you're just like, oh, I literally have a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
Because it's blocked. You're not emoting, you're not expressing, and that is a blocked throat chakra.
Yeah.
So there's different correspondences and exercises and things that you can do to help open that up and support it. And when we do energetic work, we look for alignment along all of the chakras. It's not that there's one good chakra, one bad chakra.
Oh no, they all work together. And
It's
a beautiful
just being
thing.
in harmony of
Yeah.
everything flowing.
Everything
And-
flowing. Yeah, energy on both sides of the coin. I love that that example of the throat chakra, because, and that's one of the things that I really cherish about the book, and what I've discovered on my own journey is that it's not just, communication when we're talking about the throat chakra. It's that inner honesty when we're talking about shadow work with the throat chakra. So it's about being vulnerable to yourself. Have you ever been in a situation where you just respond from an old script, react from an old script, from an old trauma, from just the loops that go on? But in the back of your mind, you're like, that's not really the truth. There's maybe a little truth in that. Maybe 40% truth. But you heard that voice go, that's not what's really happening here. You're just reacting. You're just responding. that is actually the throat chakra, because that's the communication, that's the vulnerability, that's the honesty, and the shadow work is being honest with yourself and going, hold on, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, so this story I tell everybody all the time, because again, it was like a 30-second minute. It was a New York minute,
Yeah.
and it made a huge difference. So I was with a gentleman, and he was behaving in a way that was not of my liking. And I said to him, I said, can you stop doing that? And he looks at me and he said, don't tell me what to do. Very typical, conversation that I've had my whole life with men, but because at this moment I was really heavy into my shadow work, I said, you know what, you're right. I should not tell you what to do. What I really mean is I'm not feeling safe, and so I need to take myself out of this situation. And I just walked away and left. And it was like the ripple effect from that moment was huge, because I was able to speak my truth, but I was also able to recognize my truth. Yeah, and act upon it.
Yeah.
I honored it, and I didn't lie to myself. I didn't try to fight like, no, it's you. It's you're doing something. I was like, no, I feel scared and uncomfortable, regardless of what anyone's doing. I just need to honor how I feel.
Yeah, and then you establish boundaries and remove yourself, and
Right.
that's so liberating.
And it seems
Yeah.
so simple, but that's
It's not easy, though.
It's not easy, and that's why I say shadow work is in real time. And this gives you the stories and the tools to actually slow down time and go, okay, what is really happening here? What's really happening is I feel scared, and I have to stop controlling my exterior and only control my interior.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's that?
It's so fun. It's so fun and challenging.
I think our job here as humans is to evolve and to grow and to learn and to experience. But once we go through those experiences, good, bad, and different, how do we glean the insights and the learnings and take it to the next level? How do we raise our vibration and just continue to grow? Because otherwise, we're going to just keep repeating those patterns, right? And those habits. So we have to learn. But I think diving into each of the chakras and having a better understanding, and I think the way that you outline it in the book is beautiful, because you explain what each chakra does, what it corresponds to. For example, the root makes you feel safe. It's your sense of foundation, your sense of self, your sense of security. So if you have a blockage there, or it's closed, you feel insecure, you feel unsafe, you don't feel protected. Well, what's causing that? And then you have to dive deeper in there. It's scary, but why? Because then as you do that work and it's self-discovery, and you go deeper into that journey and you find these techniques that Stefani recommends to fortify that, you grow so much stronger and more secure. And then you can recognize it when it comes up, and you say, I recognize what's happening here. I see this. I see you. Yeah.
The next part of this journey is and so the book goes through all the chakras, and it gives you tools, and it gives you prompts to think about, and it gives you meditations. Like, there's a ton of stuff my whole life, just put into this book. And but the next part that is exhilarating is you start to feel it in every part of your body. It's almost like your body is like, you let me out. I'm taking over. And so the throat chakra sensitivities become louder, and it's like, what's that?
It's like you're waking up.
You are. Your body is waking up. It's not just your mind that's waking up, but it's all of those energy centers. Your stomach gets like, don't go down that dark alley, and you're like, tell me more, because you're now listening.
How many times you walk into a room and your solar plexus is like, I don't feel right. Something's off. Energy's off. You don't trust it. And then something happened. You're like, should have known. I should have trusted my gut. Well, you know what? That is your sense. That's your sensor saying, ding, ding, ding. Your higher self is saying, alert, alert. So you start becoming more attuned to those subtle energies and trusting yourself.
And your whole body becomes a pendulum, a truth teller, an oracle card. You really start to learn how to work with what we have here on Earth, the organic matter. You start to just live in this space of energy that is undeniable. It is just undeniable, and it's a beautiful way to move forward through the chaos that's happening around us, because now you get to trust you. You don't have to rely on the propaganda or the gossip or, you know, whatever's in your ear. You recognize like, no, I can see and I can feel clearly. I can see clearly now.
But it also strengthens your autonomy.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you won't be gaslit by people saying, like, oh, that's not the truth. That's it or not. And you're like, oh, yeah, no. I know exactly what's happening and what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with. And the people who are trying to take advantage of you will automatically be repelled by your strength.
Yeah.
Because you're not energetically vibing. And they're like, yeah, I can't manipulate that anymore. So it is protection. The more you learn about this, the more strong and fortified you become.
Absolutely. And I don't think that there is a word here that we can say, no, it's not that. Because it's there's so much, like I said, it's all energy.
Yeah.
And there's so much working around us. But like you said, it's you waking up and you get to see, you know, okay, that's this cord of energy that's leading this way. Now all of a sudden I can see all the fractals of opportunity and what is going to resonate best with me and take me further into the direction I truly want to go in. It just becomes, there's so much awareness that you become part of. And look, listen, doesn't mean you're going to 100% of the time be like, I'm making the best decisions of my life. Sometimes we're still human. We're going to falter. There's sun flares that are going to fuck us up.
Yeah.
But we go, oh, that was not a good day. That one wasn't pretty. And we move on instead of sitting on our bed going, I'm going to just sulk for the next 40 hours, you know?
Yeah. So, all right, some folks said, like, okay, how did you get into this? How did you start? And I know that this is part of your family lineage. So share with everybody that's watching this a little bit about your upbringing and, like, how did you get into this stuff? Because I've known you since high school, but even I, you know, it's story time is definitely.
Okay. So, the very first, well, let's back it up. When the story that's been told to me is when my mother was pregnant with me, in 1976, she went to a psychic fair or somewhere. She went somewhere. And they said to her, you need to learn about metaphysics in order to raise this child. And so she did. She studied astrology. She's been an astrologer my entire life. She studied meditation and taught meditation my entire life. She still does charts. So in the 80s and 90s, she worked in a beautiful store like this, first in Huntington, called Pillars of Light, which I don't even think made it into the 90s. That was just in the 80s. And then in the 90s, there was the Essence. It was called the Essence, and it was on Main Street in Northport. And she was like the little town witch. And every Tuesday night, she would teach meditation, and I was always there. And my thing at that time, I guess that I was most gifted at, was past lives. So I remember being there and being able to not only see for me, but every other woman that was there. It was like, okay, this is what I saw for you, this is what I saw for you. I think that was also my mother's gift, which is why it just kind of came naturally. It was something that we focused on a lot. She did all sorts of different topics every Tuesday night. So this is so cute. I never talk about this part. But everyone would come over and they would bring Entenmann's and tea, and we would have chamomile tea with some sort of Entenmann's, right? And we would just talk about whatever was going to be the topic, and Akashic records, energy. I'm blanking right now. I know Kundalini was one of them, past life regressions, child work, hypnosis, whatever, chakras, whatever it was, right? Tarot, medicine cards, so much.
And how old were you?
Preteen so when my first memory of being at these meditations, I want to say 14, but I could have been younger. She started, okay, let's back it up a little bit more. When I was 3, this is the story that was told to me. I always had nightmares my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I would wake up screaming, and I was a baby, so I couldn't articulate. My sister, Monica, would come and sing to me, sometimes there would be, this is how I started collecting teddy bears. I don't even know if you remember that, because they would just put teddy bears all over my bed because I was like, there's so many ghosts. So finally, when I was able to articulate what was happening, I was telling my mother the chapter in the book that she had just read. And my family likes to read horror novels. And so that's why the first book is called The Beast, because she was reading something about a beast, and I was dreaming about this beastly man and this fire and the woods on fire and little fire devils running after me. And she was like, oh shit, that's telepathy. Because basically I was looking at her mind and I was seeing the pictures in her brain. And so she started with me. She stopped praying over my bed and she started putting, it was called Peaceful Pond. And then there was one called Lazarus, I don't know, and then there was Kataro. So there was a lot of new age music that she would play. She was like, we're getting rid of the prayers and we're going in this direction. And she started playing this music and basically started doing meditation with me before I would go to sleep. I still have nightmares, but I was able to function as a kid and a human. I mean, not without its issues. Of course, there was a lot of anger because you don't sleep a lot, and then when you're sleeping with nightmares and stuff like that.
Right.
So it really was a full-time job for my mom and a full-time life for me that I didn't want to talk about.
Right.
I didn't want to be that person.
No, you didn't. You kept it very quiet. I knew that you had that side of you, but it's not something that you were like, hey, I'm psychic, like during high school. Like we were hanging out.
Right.
You know,
because there were times in junior high where I would have paranormal activities happen, and then, you know, in junior high, they would find out, and I was the freak show at the Halloween party, you know, being the only one seeing the head that they're all summoning. And I'm like, you gotta come pick me up, Mom, because these bitches are crazy, and they all think I'm the crazy one, you know? So, yeah, I didn't, every time I did talk about it as a kid growing up, I'm not a gentle person, so my presentation was probably as big as this presentation, and so it was thrown back at me in that same kind of bigness, you know, like
it also wasn't as publicly or socially accepted as it is today. It was very under wraps. It was very kind of shunned.
It was shunned. I don't know if you remember, but on 25A, across from where Ground Round, is that the name of that restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. There was this little house, and we would all drive by, and every time we would drive by, they would say, that's where the gypsy lives. That's where the gypsy lives. And she had, you know, her little sign out there, palm reader. And there were all sorts of rumors about her, and I was like, I'm not telling people I do that shit. Fuck that.
Well, it's funny because I used to always have my tarot deck. I always did astrology. I would be making the little mud spells out in nature and climbing trees. Like during my young time, I was hiding in nature and trees.
Yeah.
Like, so for certain people to be like, oh, she's an imposter, I'm like, you know what? You actually don't know me, bitch.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know what you're talking about because I kept those things to myself.
Right.
And like, but some people are real nasty about it, and they're like very judgy, and I'm like, well, we couldn't speak freely about it because we just were like, we knew we were going to get backlash about it.
Right.
But I just did it because I felt called to it, always.
Right.
Yeah.
And right, so there was energy working against us at that time, back in those days, where we felt like we had to stay small. But then you get to a point in your life where you're like, I'm not going to be small anymore. And maybe you know, the script that's still playing in my head is now my responsibility because I haven't lived in Northport in 20 years.
You had to get out of it.
Right. Why would I still hold on to, I want to be like everyone else when I'm not even in the same environment? And that took me a really long time to get over, you know?
But I think part of our role was actually to break out of that mold and then to carry the torch for the people to like have that free space to be able to express anymore. So it's like the torch bearer.
Yeah.
The hermit.
Yeah.
Carrying a lantern.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not a matter, listen, if they didn't understand, that's fine, because again, where is that coming from? Fear-based and lack of understanding from their own perspective. But rather than reflecting, they're projecting.
Right.
So again, it's all different energy, right?
Right, but
It's
in essence, and I'll speak for me, but there were a lot of projections I was making. You know, that's why, again, this book to me is huge. Because
liberating.
It's liberating because I was able to say, okay, I reacted that way. The story that I told you that happened, I reacted from an old script instead of being able to say, no, that's not what I believe, or that's not how I see the situation. I was trying to defend a non-reality. And I got caught up in a moment, and then it hurt my body. It hurt my actual reality because I was thrust back into a 30-year-old cycle. But the shadow work is being able to say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for my part in that.
Yeah.
And just
Totally. Yes.
Yeah, that's huge. It's great.
So
You guys have any questions? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, that's what I was going to say. So what I will say is Stephanie dives into each of the chakras, and she explains obviously broadly everything we're talking about, but each of the chakras, but she's got so many exercises in this book. So everything from meditations to crystal correspondences to herbs to recipes to journal prompts, which I think is so important. And meditation allows you just to quiet your mind.
Yeah. And there's yoga poses.
Yeah, and yoga poses,
Because
which
you
is so
gotta
good
get
at.
it out of your
The
body.
movement to emote, the movement and sequences for each correspondence, rituals, and this is a culmination of all of your practices. I think it's so valuable.
It's a plethora of information.
It is a plethora of information.
Yeah. It is, and this is so empowering because you don't have to do it all at once. You do it little bit by bit, and then you just build upon it. So I think it's really valuable. A lot of people have been very receptive to it, and I think you're really going to touch a lot of people with it.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm like a proud mom. I am.
It really is a lifetime of work. And I tell people all the time, once you make that shift in your brain, once it just clicks and you're like, I'm taking my life back, you're on a bullet. You're speeding. So let's say that book took me 46 years to write. One day in January of 2023, I woke up, I was like, whew, I got the outline. But I've literally been writing. My first diary was my 11th birthday. My birthday is January 11th, and on my 11th birthday, I got my first diary, and I still remember it was purple leather, and it had the Tree of Life on it, and it was the best thing ever. And I've been trying to write this book since I was 11. And
So cool.
so in January of 2023, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I have the outline. I had never talked to a publisher. I had talked to friends that I grew up with, hey, so you work in books, you work in whatever, what do I do? And never really gotten a lot of leads, a lot of steps that I felt comfortable taking. But this morning on January 2023, I had the outline. I was like, let me look up Llewellyn Publishing. I looked up, scrolled all the way down where it says, if you have a manuscript, submit it here. I did that. They said yes. The book was done in July.
Wow.
And here we that was 12 months ago.
That does not really happen.
But
Especially
that's
not
because I did the work.
You were doing all the work. Yeah, I mean, this is a culmination of all of your life experience, all of your knowledge, all of your practices that you are putting into reality. And then it's that culmination where all the stars align and it just happens.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I have to say one more thing.
It wouldn't have happened if you didn't do the work.
Totally. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't do the work. And it wouldn't have happened if I thought about time. If I believed in time, I would have said, it's too late. I passed, right? The door is closed. My life has been lived, whatever. I was in remedial English at Hofstra. I was already a junior in college with my first, in my first degree. And I was still I can't do this grammar thing, man. Grammar and spelling.
I think Louise Hay published her first book at 60 or over 60.
But the point is I never gave up. I didn't believe in time, so I was going to keep doing it. I always wanted to write. took a lot of back doors to get there because I had a hard time. I still can't spell. I still don't know where periods and commas go.
People can do that for you.
Yeah,
It's
they
fine.
do. They do. It's really
It's
nice.
fine. Don't worry about it. That's what copyright is.
But that's me, right? And so there's things that we embrace, and there's things that we hide, and there's things that just make us who we are, and we just have to be okay with all of it. Just all of it. I don't know, that part about not believing in time, especially with what I'm working with now and a lot of my clients,
Yeah.
that part to me is huge because we get so caught up. If you think about it, like I challenge everyone, whatever, tomorrow to try to not think about what time it is and where you have to be, and not that you should not be responsible for the things that you have to do, but don't look at the clock. Don't look at for what are you on time? How old am I? Did I do this in my life? Have I accomplished that? Whatever micro or macro vision that you need to put on time, just try for 24 hours. See what I did there? I gave you a time limit.
It can be worked. It can definitely it can definitely be manipulated and worked.
It's crazy. It's crazy. That's my newest, biggest thing that I'm looking into, like quantum physics and all of that.
It's fascinating.
It's
Put in a wormhole.
yeah. Okay, so do you
What question?
lovely ladies have any questions?
When you do the work, do you have to start at the root chakra, or can you jump around?
You can absolutely jump around,
Okay.
and thank you for asking
Yeah.
that question. I did write the book, Root to Crown,
Right.
because it's a good progression. But if you feel it in your body, if you're like, my solar plexus is on fire right now, just
Okay.
go to solar plexus.
Okay,
Yeah,
good to know. Thank
Good
you.
question.
yeah.
I'm excited just to dive in. This was perfect timing.
See, there you go.
But it just was meant to be. This is
Yeah.
like I'm supposed to be here.
Yes.
There's a lot to learn, but there's a lot to address and accept
Yeah.
and move on because it should empower.
Yeah. And
That's
I
perfect
love
timing.
that you said those words. It's perfect timing because that, like I said, everything comes in pairs, right? So when you can really let go of your condensed version of time does show up perfectly.
Yeah.
When you let go of what you expect time to be, time shows up perfectly.
Exciting.
Yeah.
To be true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any questions, Reza? What do you think?
No, you just captured a lot. I mean, I didn't expect everything you said, and every single standpoint from when you were mentioning the kitchen, that could easily be me. And then the aspect of it switching around, like you're taking it the wrong way. It happens.
Yeah.
To when you were a kid having nightmares, and everyone's like, huh? That was me. I always saw shadows, and I
Yeah.
never understood. Never. But I always had the nightmares until my mother made her mother come from South America because of the fact that she was wrong. But it wasn't. And all of a sudden, I don't know. My grandmother had something to do. I feel she had tarot cards. She had things. They believed in a lot of, back when many years ago, when she was from Peru, or, from Peru.
Yeah.
They do a lot of, a little bit of.
Well, they're more connected.
Yeah.
So they never let go of the openness of their energy and the
She made sure
expansion.
to stay with me.
Yeah.
In my room, and I don't know if there's anything that could be done to remove those nightmares. That's what they would call them. Same thing. My family was always into horror.
Yeah.
It's the horror show. No, don't worry. There's all that stuff, but I would always, and I never thought about it until you really brought that up, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
But something's calling me since my daughters were born, and when my daughter, I think it was Faith's crib. I saw a shadow over her, and I woke up, and I'm awake. What is that? And I covered myself over the blanket, and I'm like, why is there someone there? And I'm like, what are you hiding? Protect your child. Like, and I looked up, like,
Hold on, Mom there, kicking Mom there.
and I'm like creepy, like I'm looking, and then I'm like, go away. And then I saw it again at the edge of the crib. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please go away. I don't want to see you. What is this? And I got up because I said, Faith! And it was gone.
Yeah.
And that brought back that time. And then I said, I don't know. I want to believe that it's more, it wasn't just a nightmare. I believe I was awake.
Yeah.
And I remember picking my husband like, wake up, like this.
Yeah.
And I was hiding. And I remember, and he wouldn't wake up. No matter, he's like, I didn't feel you. I didn't hear you. I had nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's weird, but I know it was awake.
You were astral projecting. So
And-
you were outside of your body. So your soul and your spirit was awake, which is why, but your body was asleep, which is why he couldn't feel you doing all of that. And when you're outside of your body, you can see all of the entities that don't have bodies around you. It's, yeah. Oh, that was another one my mother told me about when I was like 10 years old, about astral
Well,
projecting.
that gets
But,
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Oh,
scary.
dang it.
So,
Yeah, and but that brought me back to, and I was always interested in high school, about tarot, teacup reading. I always wanted to learn more. There was an interest, but never had it around me. My parents always had Florida water for everything.
yeah. So they
You
knew
know?
what was happening.
But, and they believe all these things, but they never talked about it. And I remember my dad, when he came back from Peru one time, had sage and had all this around the house, but no one talked about it.
Because if you
They just
don't
did it.
understand,
They just-
if you don't have the knowledge,
Right.
that stuff is scary, right?
Yeah.
All in your own personal energy system is expanded so much, you're open and aware, and it's the reason why it shows up differently. Like sometimes it's nightmares, sometimes it's astral projecting, is because there's different energies at work that you're processing through, right? So your whole energy system was like, we're just gonna leave the body behind and we're gonna see what's going on. But if we're not really experiencing it and understanding it and learning about it, we just want to sage that shit and Florida water that shit and say, stay away from me. But it's not, once you experience it and you realize you are in control, it's not scary. Because all of those entities that are out of body are just like you. They're just energy entities. No matter how they were created, whether they're the light or the dark, demons are energies that we expel and then take on a life of their own. They grow into these negative entities that then come back and feed off of more negativity. So it's a lot of understanding that you have to really.
I mean, for whatever reason too, like I said, and then after my daughters were born, I was more intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And came back to like what I was in high school or, middle school, high school. But now I'm an adult that I have a car.
Yeah.
I can look into this on my own.
Right,
there's
right.
more. And I found the shop. Scrolling through Facebook. And they were on live. And I'm like, Several times I tried to make it here at the beginning. Every time I was on my way, something happened to stop me from coming here. I don't know if it was about the 5th or 6th time. The store was about to close and traffic, I remember. Then it started to pour rain, delay.
Oh.
And next thing you know, I said, you know what? I don't care. If they close the door, I'm stepping foot in front of their store because I've been trying for so long.
She's been with us for years now.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Next thing you know, I got here. I did come to the door. Well, not here, but next door. And I remember they were about to close, and I was let in, and I was like, I made it! And from there, I haven't left, but I'm learning and trying to absorb little by little.
Yeah.
And then the other day, I don't know if you remember, Danny, she was pulling cards here. Just, random talk. She said, oh, let me pull cards. And you had the cat, the deck with the cat.
Yeah.
Feline.
Yeah, one of the
Tarot,
feline towers. Yeah.
And the card said that she pulled for me was something to do with that I had to learn more about this metaphysical or spiritual world, that it's meant for me to learn it.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm trying. Something's
I'm trying.
She's been growing.
Something's
that's
wrong.
it.
Yeah,
It's
it's beautiful
not
to see.
like
Yeah.
it's not like something like I want to paint today. Do painting. Let me take a class. No, I cannot. I want more knowledge. I need
Right.
more time.
Yeah.
I'm a little tired throughout my day. But I want to still absorb and learn. I love when they do the Friday nights and they talk about the crystals, or they get on live in the middle of the day and
Yeah.
just because I want to absorb what I can.
Yeah.
And I feel like, why is that?
Because
Why?
it's not just in my perspective, when you learn about this stuff, it's not just learning about this deck of cards. It's learning about awareness. It's opening up everything in front of you. You start to see the world differently. That's why they say it's a spiritual awakening. Because your whole reality changes. you're not just reading a book and then going, well, that was a great book, and then going on to the next one. You're reading the book and going, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Because everything shifts.
You integrate it,
Yeah.
and you can't unknow it.
Right,
You
you
can't
can't
unlearn it after you're
Right.
For you to say from your childhood and all the links that seem so similar, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Could relate-
You know,
could relate
yeah,
to
could relate to that.
Right, and
Like, yeah.
I'm at a point now
I
where,
wanted to-
yeah, and please do. And I'm at a point now where, you know, if you had asked me 3 years ago, like, how do you feel about your life? Do you regret anything? Blah, 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 blah. You know, there would have been lists of like, I wish I could have changed this. I wish I could have changed
Yeah.
this. Now I'm like, absolutely not. Not one thing. You know, there was bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship, but I now see why I went through that, what I was doing, what I was recreating, what I needed to learn within myself, how to get out of my own way. And really what it came down to, for me, was I continued to have bad relationships because I kept externalizing looking for love. And it wasn't until I started going, oh my God, wait, I love me. No one else has to love me. I love me. And it, again, sounds so simple, but when you feel it, when you really feel it, and you're like, no, I really love me, you will no longer get into a bad relationship because you will come first.
And you're not looking to fill that void
Right.
Yeah.
through
There
someone
is no
else.
void.
Right.
You're fully whole.
You're fully
looking
whole.
for someone to compliment, not fit. to-
Right,
to-
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it changes
Good point.
everything. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that was one of my biggest cycles, was the abusive relationships. That was, you know, I just kept wanting to connect and at all costs, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I gotta connect to me.
But seeing the shift in you and in your life, it's significant.
Yeah.
And that's why my heart is just so full, and it's a real honor having you here and like being able to celebrate this book and accomplishment with you. And I guess we both embark on this next chapter of our journey.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful and
It is.
so
It's
amazing.
Let's see what's gonna come next.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It really is fun, and
Yeah.
who knows how long I'm gonna be here in New York.
I
but
love it. I
yeah,
love having you local. So
yeah, we're gonna be doing some
yeah,
leveling up.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for joining us on Instagram.
Thank you
on
so
our
much.
site. All right.
Thank you guys
We're gonna
so
save
much.
this on Instagram and on YouTube. So I'm gonna come around.
Yes.
And
so
follow Stephanie on our socials. Steph, what's your handle?
Primal Heart Healing. So on Instagram, Primal Heart Healing, TikTok, Primal Heart Healing, and my website is also Primal Heart Healing, and that's where you can book appointments for readings or coaching, shadow work, intuitive healing, coaching work. Yeah. Yeah.
This was really great.
And
Mary,
it doesn't matter where in the country I am, I'll do it through video chat, so we'll talk to each other.
Mary Finn online says, what are you working on next?
So actually, I am working on another book.
Yay.
Right now, the book is not, I don't know if this is the name that will eventually be out there, but I'm calling it right now Special Forces, and it is about really embracing energy and sacred geometry and quantum physics and working within all of those energetic connections. So it goes deeper into what this is, but it's like really working with what we can't see but is right in front of us.
An intermediate version of it.
Yes, an intermediate.
Yes.
This is beginner, then we got intermediate.
Oh,
and then
God knows what's coming after
We're
that.
gonna
Whoa, buckle up.
Yeah, great. Well, guys, we do have signed copies. We made sure that Stephanie signed all of these. So if you want to, they can't wait for your next book. So Canella's on. I am so excited. So if you want to order this, you can. You can order it through our website. Stephanie signed all of these, and you know she's our dear friend. We can put you in touch with her, but she also just gave you all our
Hi,
contact.
Sloopy.
Hello.
Yeah.
He's on.
Yeah, he's on the
So
TikTok.
cool. Awesome.
The tickety talk.
Thanks for joining, everybody. I'm going to sign off, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Bye, you guys.
Wow.
Thank